Hiya, welcome to Darren in the studio. Thanks for swinging by for a new video here in my little studio. You find us on a Saturday afternoon here in northwest Leicestershire, United Kingdom, and we've had some really great weather these last sort of few days, and spring has really sprung here. So I don't know what it is in your part of the world. As always with these videos, I love hearing where you're watching. We've got people all over the world that watch the videos, and you tell me where you're from, and it's great. What I should do is I should get a map here in the studio and sort of pinpoint where where people are watching from, which is really cool. It makes me squeal a little bit when I find out that someone's watching in sort of Outer Mongolia or something like that. It's really cool. Well, I've kind of got things together a little bit because the first few months of the year, I said it on my last video, I've been sort of struggling a little bit to find motivation to make videos. There are lots of ideas, lots of subjects I want to sort of drop in on where it comes to making YouTube videos, but I've just found it really difficult to sort of get me mojo with it, you know. But something that I've done ever since I started this channel is look at anniversary albums, and of course 2025, 50 years since 1975, which means that what I've done is I've chosen 10 albums in my collection that are turning 50 years old in 2025. Now there's a fair old mix of different styles in here, and you will sort of be shouting at the video and you'll be saying, hey Darren, you didn't say this video, or you didn't say this album, or you didn't say that album. Well, there's probably two reasons for that. Number one, I just wanted to choose 10 albums, okay, from my collection. I wanted to choose albums that I actually have as well, which is important. It's okay sort of saying, hey, also released in 1975, this album, and then all of a sudden a little picture appears here of that album cover. That doesn't necessarily mean that the person making the video actually has that album. What I want to do, as always on this channel, is show you stuff that I actually have and not sort of albums that I don't have. So it could be that I've not featured the album that you're thinking of in this 50th anniversary roundup because I don't have it. Could be that simple. Okay, 10 albums, all from 1975. All right, these albums all released 50 years ago, all celebrating their 50th anniversary. So let's get on with it. Let's show you some of these albums. They're all in alphabetical order. Where I have them on vinyl, I have chosen the vinyl version of it. So here we go. First up, we're starting at A for AC/DC. Now, AC/DC's second album is 50 years old this year. Their first album was called High Voltage, which was released in Australia only. Then a couple of years later, in 1976, Atlantic Records released it to the world, but it wasn't the same track listing. AC/DC's second album, however, was called TNT, only released in Australia. It was, however, available worldwide as an import, but it's very rare. Original copies of AC/DC's first two albums, Australian releases from 74 and 75, are quite rare. However, Albert Productions, EMI, reissued them in 2000 and something or other. I don't know if it says it on here or not. I don't think it does. It doesn't matter anyway. 1975, AC/DC's second album, TNT, was released. Now, this album is pretty much what the UK and the rest of the world got as High Voltage. You'll know the album of High Voltage, which AC/DC's early catalogue gets really confusing. Different versions in different countries and stuff like that, especially in Australia. But this was AC/DC's second album to come out officially. AC/DC's TNT from 1975. Like I said, of course, it was never put out on CD originally because it was too long ago. But this is the reissue of it. This is the original album artwork. This is how it would have looked on vinyl, if I had a big vinyl copy of it like that. And inside here has similar sort of artwork to what was issued on the vinyl version that England got a couple of years later. But AC/DC's second album, TNT, celebrating its 50th birthday in 2025. Like I said, if you can get the first two albums on vinyl, the original Australian versions of TNT and High Voltage, then they're actually worth quite a lot of money. Next, another band this was their first album. A band from Southern America who had that southern sort of southern rock feel. Were Blackfoot. Now their first album came out in 1975. This is it. This is the 2004 CD reissue of it. Again, on vinyl, this is quite rare. This is No Reservations from Blackfoot. A nice shot of the band inside the CD tray there. This is Ricky Medlocke, who now plays and has done for a long time with Lynyrd Skynyrd. This is Jackson Spires, the drummer, who's sadly no longer with us. This is Charlie Hoggart, who's the guitarist. And this is Greg T. Walker, who was the bassist. I think Greg and Charlie still perform together in a southern sort of rock band. Ricky Medlocke's just recently put together his own band, the Ricky Medlocke Band, and hopefully he's going to be coming to the UK doing some shows when he sort of does that in the downtime of Led Zeppelin, of Lynyrd Skynyrd. But this was Blackfoot's first album, 1975, No Reservations. This is out on the Walhalla label, Legendary Progressives, 2004 reissue of the 1975 album No Reservations, turning 50 years old in 2025. Next, my favourite Alice Cooper album of all time. If you've seen one of my earlier videos, I did my top 10 Alice Cooper albums, and this was featured at number 1. No spoilers there for you. This is Alice Cooper's Welcome to My Nightmare. I might actually do a special video on Welcome to My Nightmare because I've got sort of multiple copies of this album on sort of various formats. Be nice to do a one-off video about it. I've chosen this particular vinyl copy because this is a 2010 reissue of the album. I do have an original Atlantic American I do have an original Canadian pressing and an original UK pressing of this album, and another reissue version of it as well. But I've chosen this one because this is the gatefold version, which is quite rare now, of this reissue with all the lyrics and stuff like that. This would have been what was on the inside of the original, on the the inner sleeve, or the lyrics and sort of bad and stuff like that. The light's a bit bad in here, it's all bleaching out. Alice Cooper, Welcome to My Nightmare, 1975. Like I said, this is my favourite Alice Cooper album. This is the album, for me anyway, which sort of defines Alice Cooper, who he is or what he was. I don't think he makes records like he used to, that's for sure. Alice Cooper's Welcome to My Nightmare, 1975, of course featuring the band which would go on tour with him on the Welcome to My Nightmare tour when they brought it to the UK. Also, it was made into a rock film as well. Some incredible musicians on here. Wagley Glam was the drummer. Steve Hunter on guitar. Bob Ezrin played keyboards as well. Vincent Price, of course, is on here in between Devil's Food and The Black Widow, which happens to be my favourite couple of Alice Cooper tracks. Alice Cooper, 1975. Welcome to My Nightmare. 50 years old this year. Like I said, hopefully I'll do a special video on Welcome to My Nightmare. Okay, we're going for E next. How about the Eagles and their album One of These Nights? This celebrates a 50th anniversary this year. This is a nice little reissue of it. The Eagles sort of stuff was repressed not that long ago, and this has a I don't know if this will pick it up on the camera or not, but it's beautifully embossed, really nice texture on the, can you see that? I don't know if you'll be able to see that or not. This is, like I say, a reissue, 180 gram vinyl with the original album artwork. Eagles, 1975. One of These Nights. Of course, a lot of big records on here, including the title track. What else is on here? Lion Eyes is on here. Take It to the Limit. Really good album. Eagles, One of These Nights, celebrating 50 years, 2025. Next, a band which I wanted to choose 2 albums from this band, but I like to stick to my own rules. And Kiss in 1975 released 2 albums. Of course, their studio album in 1975 was Dress to Kill. But the album that really broke Kiss in the States and certainly turned round the fortunes of the record company, because they were pretty much going bankrupt, that being Casablanca Records, was this album. This is Kiss Alive. This is Kiss's first live album, although of course both Kiss Alive and Kiss Alive 2 were heavily sort of re-recorded in the studio and edited and all this sort of stuff. But this is the album that kind of defines Kiss and kind of defines the live album as well. What a great live album this was. And live albums had sort of fallen out of favour a little bit. Peter Frampton had the Comes Alive album around about the same sort of time, and that sort of brought back the popularity of live albums. But this is just an iconic album. This is a nice little original. This is not an original press. I was going to say this is an original press. This is a nice little UK pressing on the Pye label. I don't think you'll see that. Casablanca Records was distributed by Pye in the United Kingdom. This is actually a 1977 pressing of Kiss Alive. And the interesting thing about a lot of the Pye pressings for the UK were they were on translucent red vinyl, and I don't know whether the camera is going to pick up the fact that it's translucent red. If you put it up to the light, it's sort of see-through red. I can't capture that for you, unfortunately. Of course, the reason we know it's a 1977 pressing is because they've got the Love Gun characters, the Love Gun image on the label, which was the case for the 1977 represses of Kiss albums. So if you've got a Kiss album, even say if you've got the first album and it's got that label, it's not an original. It's from a couple of 3 years later. Like I say, this album really defined Kiss. Rock and Roll All Night was taken as a live single and absolutely catapulted Kiss into the big league. Of course, their live shows around 1974-75 were absolutely incredible. They were selling out everywhere, but they weren't selling records. The first 3 Kiss albums didn't sell at all. But after this, they kind of went mental. And Casablanca Records, of course, known as a disco label, really. Kiss were the first act to be signed to Casablanca Records. But like I said earlier, up until this album, the label was pretty much hemorrhaging money left, right and centre, and was almost about to go bankrupt. And they rolled the dice for this album, that's for sure. 1975, Kiss Alive. Next, probably my favourite Queen album of all time. An album again which defines who they are, and was an album which gave them their biggest hit. Of course, I'm talking A Night at the Opera. This is my original copy of it. You can see the stain here. I don't know if you can see that, and the light's bleaching out now all of a sudden. That was made by an ex-girlfriend of mine. She spilled a Coke on my records. That's why she became an ex-girlfriend. Night at the Opera, 1975. This is a mid-80s pressing of it. Nice artwork throughout on Queen stuff, of course. Again, like I say, this was the album that defined who Queen were. A lot of big songs on here. One of my favourite Queen songs, Death on Two Legs, is on here. I'm in Love with My Car, You're My Best Friend, John Deacon penned track. 39 is on here. Love of My Life, and of course Bohemian Rhapsody, the song that gave Queen their biggest sort of hit of all time, one of the greatest rock records of all time. Queen, A Night at the Opera, celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. Next, a nice little reissue CD of Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run. Another album celebrating 50 years this year. Again, some big records on here. Thunder Road, Born to Run. I'm not sure when this was reissued on CD. This looks like a, I don't know, a 90s sort of press, where all the labels seem to be sort of universal. Bruce Springsteen, of course, this would be the album pretty much which, again, I mean, 1975 was a really good year for music, that's for sure. All kinds of music as well. Bruce Springsteen, Born to Run. This is on, obviously, the Columbia label through Sony. Nice little CD reissue. 50 years old. And he's still going strong. A lot of these artists, actually, are either still alive, or still actually performing. Another album from 1975. This really is a classic, as all these are, really. This is Rod Stewart's 1975 album, Atlantic Crossing. Beautiful artwork on this, I think you'll agree. Really nice artwork. Again, a lot of nice big records on here. I'm gonna have to get it at the inner sleeve. Nice shot of Rod there. I don't want to talk about it because this has got a slow side and a fast side. You see that? Sort of rock side and a ballad side. I don't want to talk about it. This Old Heart of Mine is on here. Sailing, of course. 3 Times a Loser. Stone Cold Sober. Produced by Tom Dowd. Big producer in the 70s and 80s. Rod Stewart. This is a nice little original press, which I didn't realise it was an original until I started to figure for this video. This is a nice little A1, A2 press of Rod Stewart's Atlantic Crossing on the Warner Brothers Burbank label. (1975), I would be 6, or would turn 6 years old. Okay, next up we're going to T-Rex. Mark Bolan T-Rex, their 1975 album was called Bolan Zip Gun. But here's a nice little reissue of it. This is the 1983 reissue of Bolan's Zip Gun from 1975. A lot of Mark's albums were reissued like this in 1983. John and Shan Bramley got the original tapes, got them recut and put brand new sleeves to them. The sleeves were all in the same sort of vein, also added lyrics, and also each album came with a free 12-inch single, so this is actually a double disc set. Mark Bolan T-Rex, Bolan Zip Gun, 1975. Of course, again, some big hits on here. Light of Love is on here. Think Zinc, Till Dawn, Zip Gun Boogie. Nice little Think Zinc remix as well on this album. This was around the time they started to remix a lot of Mark's stuff, which I think he would have been cool with. I don't think he would have minded. Nice little shot of him on the back on his scooter. Mark Bolan T-Rex. Nice little 1983 repress of Bolan Zip Gun, celebrating 50 years this year. Last but not least, I wasn't going to choose this album. And then I thought, no, I am going to, because not only is it probably the most iconic movie soundtrack of all time, it's also my favourite film of all time. 1975, of course, saw the release of Jaws, which is about to go back into the cinemas and all that kind of stuff for its 50th anniversary. But what about the soundtrack album? How about this? This is an original 1975 press of the original soundtrack album of Jaws. Music, of course, conducted and composed by John Williams. I don't know whether this has had a reissue or whether it was ever available of a reissue CD. But of course, the Jaws theme is, like I say, probably one of the greatest theme music scores of all time. There's the label, on the MCA label. Got a lot of dust on this. Plays nicely though. Well, like I say, this is an original first press from 1975. John Williams, Jaws. Celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. Incredible stuff. Like I say, Jaws being probably my favourite film of all time. That's it. That's our 1975 roundup. We will be doing 1985, 1995, 2005, 2015. So we've got all these anniversaries to come for this year. If you like what you see in this video, please do like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, all that kind of stuff. Tell your friends about the channel, and hopefully we'll see you soon right here in the studio for another video. Leave your comments and your views in the section below. Let me know what your favorite album is from 1975, and let me know where you're watching from as well. We'll see you soon in the studio soon. Ta-da.